Phil and Will are back, and this time we're going to take a crack at predicting what's going to happen next episode. We did a power rankings challenge between me and just Will, and last week I had So in last place. He had So at 16, so I have 18 points. He has 16 points. So that's pretty much what we're going to do for this episode. Is we're going to try to predict what's going to happen in episode 2. If you didn't catch our premiere recap, we did that one on Thursday, so check that one out. You get the boot list update. And then we also did a fantasy game, and Willie's very, very happy because Joe won MVP. He was sweating that one out. He was going to be really mad if Joe didn't win. So, if you
Well, I
want to,
mean, he was gonna win anyway. We kind of were talking about this. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we each have a fantasy team, and then there's a phantom team that were just the people that Phil and I didn't pick. So we really don't want to lose to that phantom team. But so yeah, each week we'll have an MVP of the episode, and you get 3 points for having an MVP on your team. This week we both agreed it was Joe, and the votes came in, I guess, on Twitter and in the comments that Joe won. But in the future, I guess if we agree on it, Phil and I, we're just gonna say like that's it, unless it's like an overwhelming, votes in the comments or on Twitter that someone else should be the MVP. But I guess when we talk about MVP, I think you have to have your MVP case before before the immunity challenge is over. Because then you don't want just the MVP to just be the person who's on the tribe that goes to the tribal.
yeah,
So that's not very MVP of you.
I hear what you're saying. I have a feeling though, maybe this week, maybe not so much this week, but if they do go to 2 tribes, it's gonna like heavily focus probably on the losing tribe. So that could kind of put a hindrance on it. But I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I agree with you.
I'm not saying it can't,
yeah.
like the person can't come from that tribe. I'm saying it shouldn't be like exclusively it's going to be the person who made the move pre-tribal. Like that shouldn't. If you're the MVP of the episode, you should have done well throughout the episode. So
Yeah,
like if Joe had gone to tribal, if no caller had gone to tribal, like Joe would still have a pretty good case for it. Carolyn and Tyler, pretty much the only things they did were really.
Well, especially Tyler. Carolyn,
Right.
at least, Carolyn put in some work. I mean, she found the idol before tribal, but Tyler, it was kind of a stretch because the only reason we really got to know Tyler was because White Collar went to tribal.
Yeah, so that's why the MVP, like most valuable player of like the entire episode, like shouldn't just be someone who's on the team that goes to tribal and doesn't get voted off.
Yeah.
Is it possible for the MVP to get voted off? What if they have just an amazing, amazing episode and then like someone plays an idol and they get booted for just like kind of bad luck?
So, like, if you're saying like somebody makes like huge moves to swing the numbers in their favor and then get screwed by an idol, I mean, I could see. I mean, I think we'd have to cross that bridge when we got there because I could see it happening. I mean,
that's what I'm wondering. Can you even see that, or would it just be like, no, you went home? You're not.
I'm trying to think of Samoa when Russell would throw his idols out there because I'm just trying to think if there was ever a time.
Kelly got idled out, but she wasn't even, doing that much.
No, John Fincher's move was pretty cool, but really that was all Russell doing it. Anyway. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but I mean, it could probably happen. I don't know if we've seen it happen, but I'm sure it could.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get there. Hopefully we don't, because we don't want to see like a good player go home that way.
Yeah. All right. So you want to start off, or am I starting off? We'll go from 1 to 17 now, because Kim is gone.
17-1. These are the power rankings, and we'll get into some predictions about here. These power rankings, it's kind of like I kind of have 2 tiers. Just players you're going to put at the top. And the order doesn't really matter because you're pretty sure they aren't going home. So less matters more at the top, and then when we get down, closer to the bottom is where it kind of really counts. But I have Sierra number 1 of my power rankings just because if that blue collar tribe goes to tribal, I don't see Sierra. First of all, I don't think they're going to go to tribal, but if they do, like Dan is such a obvious person to go home.
Yeah.
And then the next person. Maybe, Mike is pretty well liked, but he's kind of Dan's friend. So if anyone else is on the outs, it would be Dan. And then, I think Sierra is strong. Like if someone was going to mess up in a challenge, I don't think it would be Sierra. I think it would be Lindsay or Kelly. Not that they will. I'm saying it's more likely. And then maybe Rodney could get on people's nerves by that point or something. So that's why I just have Sierra. Like she's doing nothing wrong so far.
Okay, well, for my thing, I kind of broke down each tribe into who I thought were in the best position almost after the first week. And I don't know why I did it this way, but it just happened. I don't know if it was just because I was thinking in terms of the collars as I was going. But my top six, I have two blue, two red, two white. I actually have Mike at number one because I don't see how you get rid of his challenge strength. Even if he does annoy you, you have to go Dan first. I honestly don't think anybody on blue collar is in trouble except for Dan, unless he can somehow turn it on one of the girls. So I have the girls a little bit lower, but I have Mike at number one. I don't think there's any way Mike goes anywhere. I think Mike's going to go deep in this game. I really like Mike, and I liked his premiere a lot. He was kind of shown a little goofy, but also knowing what's going on. That's always a good edit to have.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I actually, if we're going to talk about like how we split it up, I mean, I didn't do this on purpose either, but my first six, I have half are blue collar, half are no collar.
Okay.
Just because the white collars could very likely go to tribal again, and none of them are in really that great of a. I mean, I think like Max is in a pretty good position, but if you look at Carolyn, like they could flush that all out. They could say that's too dangerous. They could just want to get rid of it, and I know that's a good thing to have. And then like Shireen, she already like messed up one challenge. If she messes it up again, it's hard to say, keep her around just because she's loyal if you keep losing. And then Tyler, like he's not in that core three. And then like Joaquin is very like on the outs because
he's on the outs, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think anyone on the white collar is particularly in that good of a position. So, but I'll go with my 16 or no number two.
Yeah, number two.
I'm going Rodney. Just
you know what? I have Rodney at two too. I have him as well.
Because I mean, like you were saying, the challenge strength with Mike, I think Rodney has just as much challenge strength, even more maybe, and he's like way closer with the girls, and he's way more in the majority in the blue collar tribe. So yeah, I have Rodney at number two. So.
Yeah. And I have him there as well because everything pretty much you just said it. If blue collar were to go to tribal, Rodney and Mike, they're not going first. They're the two strongest guys on the tribe, and the girls don't like Dan enough to pull in Dan. And Rodney's not going to get rid of Mike before he gets rid of Dan. So if Rodney is really in with those girls, Dan's going to be the first one to go. If he's not in with the girls, it's going to be Dan, Mike, and Rodney doing something and getting rid of one of the girls. So I think Mike and Rodney, they're safe until there's some type of mix-up or if blue collar keeps losing, which I really don't see happening because blue collar is a pretty strong tribe. So
right. See, I have Mike a little bit lower, but that's just because he's the closest to Dan. So if something happens with Dan, I mean, we don't know if he somehow finds an idol. I mean, I don't really they wouldn't switch up the tribe now, but I just have Mike a little bit lower in case something really kooky happens because I think the core. I mean, I think it's like Rodney and the Chicks are like really pretty solid there. But like I said, like the blue. I don't really know how to Rodney and Mike. Like, did they get along or not? I really don't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't see Kelly and Mike. The only thing we really saw was like Sierra and Lindsay kind of going against Dan, and then like Mike saying, "Dan, don't worry, I got your back." But like,
what is this going to foreshadow? I don't know because a lot of times that'll happen in premieres where they'll send you one thing. And the next episode, it's almost like it never happened. And it's like, oh, maybe they just wanted you to get to know the characters, and that's what was happening in the first 3 days. But then it really had nothing to do with what happens after that. So I could see that happening with the whole Mike and Dan thing. It's just like they're trying to give you some hope towards Dan because Dan might last a couple more vote outs. But I could also see Dan being the first. As soon as blue collar goes, I still think Dan's going to be the first one to go.
Yeah. And I think on the podcast on Thursday after the episode, on the recap episode, I think I said I understand the no collar dynamics better than blue collar, and someone's commented like, "How is that possible? We barely saw any of Haley, Will, or Nina." And basically, what I'm saying is, I don't like for blue collar. I just know one thing, and that's Dan's on the outs. But everyone else, I'm not really sure. Like, who of the girls are tightest? Are they all three tight? Are two of them tight? We know Rodney and Lindsay are kind of tight, but how is Rodney with the guys? I mean, I really don't know. With no collar, it seems like okay. Jen and Joe are very popular. Will and Haley seem to be very likable enough. And then you have Vince, who's kind of on the outside for starting confrontation.
And Nina.
And then
Yeah.
Nina, like we saw in the preview, and she's the older chick anyway, who has the hearing thing going on. So I kind of get where No Collar's head is at more with Blue Collar, even though Blue Collar, like, it's pretty much Dan is on the outs.
Yeah,
So
my whole thing with that is when people talk in confessionals, I like to see like how much of it is just narration and how much of it are they actually talking about other cast members. And with Blue Collar, everybody was talking about Dan, so you knew Dan was on the outside. But other than that, Rodney was talking about Lindsay, and that was really it. Kelly really wasn't mentioning Sierra. She mentioned a little bit of the Lindsay and Dan feud, but once again, that's based around Dan. So I didn't really get much of that. Whereas with No Collar, you knew Jen and Joe were talking about Vince. You knew Vince was talking about Jen and Joe. You knew even what was it? Will was talking about Nina at one point. Like they were all talking about each other, not just narrating what was going on. Whereas at Blue Collar, it was a lot of like, "Ha, Mike ate a scorpion," and it was like, well, that's more of like narration. We just watched that happen. I don't really know how that makes you feel about Mike. I don't know where you sit with Mike now. They didn't get into that as much with strategy. It was more of just this guy's kind of a goof, or this guy's kind of whatever.
right, yeah, I agree. I'm not saying I know No Collar that well because we really didn't get to see much of three of the characters, but I guess I have a better idea because than Blue Collar. Blue Collar is we just know one thing, and
Yeah.
that's that dance on the outs, like you said. But yeah, I'll go to my number three. I'm sticking with Blue Collar again, just because I think it's such a like we've said it like 100 times now. It's just Dan is kind of the guy. He's a dead man walking. And I have Kelly number three, just
Wow.
because. Oh, you're surprised by this.
Yeah, because you never. It's like you went from like hating Kelly, and now she's your number three on your power rankings in episode two on a
I
small
mean,
tribe.
it goes per episode. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you want me to say? It's from seeing that. I think so. Yeah, my number one, two, three is Sierra, Rodney, and Kelly.
that makes me
Um,
happy. Who would have
just
thought Rodney would be in our top three? Both of us would have Rodney at number two in episode two, and we both didn't want anything to do with Rodney at the beginning.
But it really doesn't speak to so much about Rodney or Kelly or Sierra. It speaks just so much about how Dan messed up so
Yeah,
royally.
it's
Like
true.
not only like when coming into this, we thought, okay, Dan is a person who's seen every season. He's been applying for forever. He'll have some social skills to not, complain about the shelter and not like just be pretty much an ass. The way he was like talking to the girls, like, no, that's wrong. He was such a
I
I
mean,
mean,
they
come
were
on.
laughing at him. They were
I
actually laughing at him because they couldn't take it anymore.
I mean, when I thought Dan was gonna come in, I thought he was gonna have that social skills and like because he's seen Survivor, and sure he's the old fat guy, but someone else would be doing that, complaining and getting in fights and arguing over small things that don't really matter, and that's how he would coast. That would get him farther in the game. Someone else would do that, maybe like Rodney or like Lindsay would be the complainer, but now
But
he's
you
this
thought Kelly was going to be the one
yeah.
who tried to come in and
Or
take
even
over.
Kelly. I thought Kelly would try to be like this bossy older lady sheriff figure.
Yeah.
But now it's like he's old and fat, and he's the annoying one. So I just don't see any way for him to like survive. Honestly,
Yeah.
it sucks. He's on my fantasy team. He seems like a nice, funny guy. Just like you can't complain about the
You
shelter
know,
and talk condescending. Don't talk down to people, and
and
it's I can't believe he's such a super fan, and he did that.
what Dan needs somebody to get sick or something. That's really what it comes down to. Is he's going to need like somebody to get sick or somebody to like do something so terrible that it's unforgivable. Because I mean, he's just annoying. But
Yeah, he needs someone to like pour the rice out.
he does. He needs Jatia to come onto camp and just dump it and then say that it was someone else. That's what he needs. That's the only way he's staying around.
All
But
right, so yeah,
my
I have
number
those
three.
three blue collars at the top. So
Yeah, my number three is the MVP himself. I got Joe at number three because there's no way in hell There's no way Joe goes. He is the top guy on no collar right now, and even if Vince goes after him, I don't think Vince is dumb enough to go after him. But if Vince were to try to go after him, Vince would be the next guy out. There's no way Joe's going anywhere. Everybody likes Joe. Joe's the best worker on the tribe. He did that puzzle. I think there was an interview today or yesterday with Gordon Holmes and John Kierhofer, the guy who does the challenges, and he said that Joe did that puzzle in like 7 minutes, which was like the second fastest they've ever seen it. and that's incredible. Like they said it normally took like 20 minutes to do each
Yeah,
puzzle.
I read
He
that
did it in
today.
7 minutes.
Like it's some girl from like the medical team did it in 5, and that was the
Yeah.
record.
Yep.
So to have him, being out there with lack of sleep, lack of food, to go out there and do that. The only thing with Joe is that he's coming on so strong. Like he's done so many things right that if Vince, is threatened by him, which he clearly is, if he, gets Nina, who feels like she's on the outs, and gets Will, who's kind of the older guy, and says, "Look, come with me," and then maybe, I don't think Jen would vote Joe, but maybe Haley. I don't know.
We don't know where Haley stands.
I have Joe pretty high in my rankings, but I don't have him as high as you, just because he has kind of put a target on his back already. Not a big target, but and it won't come into play until probably the merge. But he is like the strongest, like most likable dude. It's just that we see it all the time that these like alpha males that are just great, just they get picked off because they're threats.
Yeah,
So
I don't think that'll happen yet with Joe, though. That's my
yeah, I don't
hope.
think it will happen yet, but just in case it does, I have him a little bit lower down. So okay, I have Haley at number 4, just because if no caller goes to tribal, which I really don't think they will, I think they have the strongest tribe with Vince and Joe, and then I mean Haley and Jen seem pretty fit, and then Will's like a bigger dude. Nina might be a liability, but if they go to tribal, it's going to be, I would think, Nina, Will, Vince, like even maybe Joe or Jen, because they've had so much. Haley hasn't been like in it enough for me to say like she hasn't done anything wrong. I feel like they're not going to target Haley. Like, why would you target Haley?
Yeah, my whole thing with Haley is I have her a little bit lower just because we didn't get to see enough of her, and I don't want her to be like one of those invisible boots where it's like, why did they get rid of her? Nobody knows, and all of a sudden she's just gone episode 2. So I have her a little bit lower. I get why you have Haley at 4. I don't I didn't get to see enough of Haley, and I don't want to put all my trust in the fact that she's not going to go based on not seeing really anything.
Right, I hear you, but again, if you're on a no caller tribe, like I just can't think of any reason to get rid of Haley over Nina, over Will. Like I just, unless she really would screw something up the challenge, but I think Nina would be far more likely to screw up, or Will would be more likely to, like, he's kind of fat, bigger guy, to like not be able to keep up if it's swimming or running. And I think it is a swimming challenge. That's what it said in the
It looked
interview.
like it was a swimming challenge in the preview.
Yeah. So Will, that's why I have Will lower. I think Haley's just sitting in a good spot, just because she's.
Yeah.
I think she's. You can tell she's friends with Joe and Jen, and they seem to be kind of controlling things.
Well, my number 4, I have Jen. Really, I don't know what else there is to say about Jen. It's just like everybody liked Jen. She got a huge amount of screen time. She's in the middle of the 2 guys. She's not going to be the first one to go. Like, she knows what she's doing. She's good at brushing things off. I mean, Vince couldn't have been any creepier to Jen, and she was still just like, he's weird, but she said it in a confessional. She didn't say it to his face. So I like Jen. I don't think Jen's going anywhere either. I have her at number 4.
Yeah, I love Jen. She's it was so much fun to watch. She was like the star of that episode. I mean, she didn't even go to tribal or tribe, and she was probably number 2 in confessionals behind Carolyn.
I think so. I think she was number 2 behind Carolyn. The women dominated that episode, really.
Yeah, I mean, she was the narrator, it felt like, of her tribe, and she's funny, and yeah, I mean, both guys like her. I have her at number 5, just one spot down from Haley, and the only reason I have her just one spot down is because Vince has already said Jen might not be so trustworthy, especially when she lied right to Vince's face. Do you think Joe's attractive? She's like, no.
Yeah.
No, she was clearly lying. If she had pulled it off a little bit more savvy, been like, yeah, I think he's attractive, but that doesn't matter. That's all that Vince wanted to hear. So if Vince, if Vince can just like wound like up some people and just like isolate Joe and Jen, like that's just, I mean, I doubt it happens. But
the only thing is, it's hard to do that on a small tribe. It's really hard to do that on a small tribe. If this was a 10-person tribe or a 9-person tribe, it's easier to round up people because you can be like, those 2 are too close, let's get rid of them. Here, he's got to get the entire tribe to go against those 2. Like, he's got to get everybody else on his tribe. He doesn't have any options. If one person says, no, I don't want to do it, you're screwed.
Right. No, I agree with you. That's why I have Jen at 5. I just might as well say my number 6 now. Number 6, I have Joe. So
Okay.
I have him very high up here. I just have the blue collar people a little higher, just because I think they're not in as much danger.
Yeah, the way I ranked it with my 2, 2, and 2 at the beginning, blue collar. I feel like once again, like because we didn't get to know them that well, I just kind of said like, well, those two guys would never go home. And then it was like with the no collars, it's like they could possibly go home, but they're still not going to. And then the white collars really did have. They're like the third best tribe. They're the third best tribe out of three, and that kind of sucks for them because that means that they lose. But so that's why I have them at my number 5 and my number 6. I have Max at 5. And I mean, we get to see all of Max this week, which is cool. Like if you guys are into that. But like, I still think he's going to be annoying, but I also don't think that there's any way they get rid of him before they get rid of Joaquin, Carolyn, or Shireen, because he's the strongest guy, or he's probably the second strongest guy. But yeah, there's no way they get rid of him now.
I mean, even Tyler is, because he's not in that kind of 3, the Carolyn, Shireen, Max 3. So, I don't see him going. I would say Max is the most safe on the white collar tribe. The only thing that worries me about Max is his mouth, that he's just been saying these really pompous things, and that it's just kind of, he's playing up to like this professor character. And then with Max, it's also, So might have called him out a little bit, tribal. Like, I think that's what if we read the exit interviews, and she was saying, yeah, I pretty much knew I was going. I was just trying to oust Max because he told me we were in this tight 4. And so if people are getting wary that Max is like a shady player, they might say, hey, he's not that strong. We'll still have Tyler and Joaquin. The hell with him.
My thing is, I don't think that'll really start to hurt him till later, because I think that the people in the white collar tribe do like Max. I think they like his personality. The other tribes might get annoyed by it because he's also talking at them and he's their rival. While he's on this tribe, I just don't see. I think that they really do like him. Like, I think Shireen and Carolyn genuinely like him. And I think Tyler might even like him. Like, I think they all genuinely like Max. So that's why I have Max number 5. Number 6, I have Tyler. Since you did your number 6, I'll just do mine. Tyler, some of you thought he was the MVP of the episode. I didn't, but he was definitely the most surprising, I think, of the entire episode. And, there's really not much else to really say about Tyler, but the same reasons with Max. There's weaker people, and then there's Joaquin. So it's like, why would you get rid of Tyler or Max if you have those other people? So my top 6, I'm confident none of them are going home.
Okay, I have Tyler a lot lower. And it's mainly because I think white collar is the weakest tribe, and so that they're likely to go to tribal, and that's mainly why I have Tyler lower. But I'm just going to give like the scenario in which Tyler goes home. If he says, to Max or to Shireen or even to Joaquin, look, Carolyn has an idol. She told me. Spills the beans on Carolyn. Let's flush the idol. Get rid of Carolyn. And Max goes back to Carolyn and Shireen saying, look, Tyler's trying to get rid of Carolyn. He's clearly not trustworthy. There you go.
I think Tyler's too smart. I don't think he'd do that. I think he's smart.
Or Carolyn could also think, crap, he's the only one that knows about my idol. I really don't want him telling anybody. Let's target him, and I'll make up some lie about, or I'm just saying, because he knows about this idol, there's more. I'm not saying he has more reason to go home than Joaquin, but I just have him. I wouldn't have him in my top 6. So.
I think your second reason is more likely than the first one, where Carolyn gets paranoid because Tyler knows. That happens a lot, where it's like, now he knows about my idol. Now I either have to keep him right next to me or I have to get rid of him before he can tell anyone else. And I could see that being a reason. Although, like we were saying with the white collar tribe, they seem level-headed. Like, they don't seem like a crazy tribe. Like, they are way more forgiving of certain things. So I really don't know. I have a good feeling Tyler is not going to go anywhere yet.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, I'm gonna do rank number 7. I guess we can do 2 at a time. Yeah. I'm going to go 7 and 8 right now, and I have Lindsay at 7 and Mike at 8. And this is just me liking the blue collar's chances if your name's not Dan. I don't know if we need to talk about this anymore. I have Lindsay a little bit higher than Mike just because Mike is shown to be kind of Dan's friend. So if anyone's on the outs, it's besides Dan, it's Mike. But I don't see Mike going home at all. I don't see Lindsay going home at all. So pretty much, if you're on the blue collar tribe, you're set unless you're Dan.
See, I have Lindsay a little bit lower, and the only reason I have Lindsay a little bit lower is pretty much in case the premiere was trying to hint at stuff that's coming down the way. Kelly's only confessional was about Lindsay and Dan feuding. And if that is supposed to be like some type of flash forward, whatever, foreshadowing, there we go, there's the word. If that's supposed to be some sort of foreshadowing, I couldn't think of it. If that's supposed to be some sort of foreshadowing, maybe Dan rebounds somehow, him and Mike pull something off. I don't know if it will happen, but I do have Lindsay lower just because if somehow Dan stays, I think Lindsay's next on the chopping block. Because the only reason Dan's going to stay is because him and Mike pulled something off, not because Mike's going to go instead.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. I mean, we'll see how you get to Lindsay. I mean, these top ones are kind of I have the whole blue collar in. What is that? The top 8 besides Dan. So
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, really the top 11, I'm really not worried about for my tribe or for my boot list. So like really, it's like when you're trying to order them, it's like it doesn't really matter because I don't feel like any of them are in that much trouble. My number 7.
If there's a surprise and one of those top 11 goes home, you have to have them in that order to not screw you. So.
Yeah. Well, here's my number 7, and this one might kind of surprise you a little bit, but I have Will at number 7. And then.
That's not too surprising.
Okay, I didn't know because you've been kind of saying like if Nina doesn't go, Will might go. And then at number 8, I have Kelly. So I have Kelly way lower than you. So maybe the tables have turned, and you're the big Kelly fan now, and I'm not. But yeah, Will at 7, pretty much just no collars too strong. I feel like Will got a really positive edit. I feel like he was really well liked in that episode by his tribe. Like he made that decision so he could go make sandwiches. Like it was kind of funny. He was supposed to be kind of like this doofy guy. And then Kelly seemed really reasonable and really level-headed on that tribe. And when everybody else was fighting, with Dan, and when Sierra and Lindsay were laughing in Dan's face, Kelly was just kind of off to the side, like staying out of it. And I think that's very smart of her. So I don't think she's in danger at all.
Yeah, I've already talked about Kelly. I just don't see her. And we actually have a comment on this video. It says Nina will go next if it's no collar. Kelly will go if it's blue collar. And Shireen will go if it's white collar. And I don't think I agree with any of those. That's from Steel Punch, a comment.
I think I
maybe
could
Nina.
see
the
Nina one.
But I don't think they're going because that was such a heavy thing in the next time on Survivor. I think she blows up like pre-challenge and then no collar wins and then they don't go to tribal. I mean, that's my thinking. That's what usually happens when they show like one character in so much danger. They're not just going to tell you who's going home in the next time on Survivor. So I don't think no collar is really going to tribal. And Kelly, we both talked about this. I don't see how it's Kelly if the blue collar tribe goes.
Shireen I could see if she messes up in the next challenge. So I do actually have Shireen kind of low. That one I could see, but I still think there's Joaquin and there's Joaquin.
I think there's, Joaquin definitely, and then even Carolyn to flush the idol, and she could be equally as weak as Shireen. She's just as high as a chance being as weak as Shireen. Yeah. So I would put even Carolyn below Shireen. But we'll get to that. So what number are we on now?
9.
9. Okay. I have Max at number 9.
Yeah.
And I have him this low just because I think it's white collar going to travel again. So if anything's going to happen, might as well have. He's actually my first white collar person on the list at 9. So I don't think that's how I think. And if it is, and like I said, if blue collar goes, I'm like so confident that it's going to be Dan. That's why I have blue collar up high, and then no collar. I don't think they're going simply because of the huge Nina blow up. It's such a classic. If you've watched Survivor enough, you find the patterns of these next time on Survivors. They show a person with a huge fight, and then the fight happens. There might be some bitterness, and then they don't even need to vote someone off.
And then what ended up happening too is normally what they'll do is the next time on Survivor means absolutely nothing. It's just supposed to hook people in for the next week. And then on the weekends, they normally have like another preview. And in this preview, it still just showed Max being naked. So I think it's going to be a really like low episode. And I could see White Collar going again and it being an obvious Joaquin boot because it just seemed like it was too.
Or
Like,
Dan going, or Blue
yeah,
Collar going and being an obvious Dan boot.
yeah. It
I
was
wouldn't
just,
even mind an obvious boot at this point just because it's episode 2 and the premiere was so good.
yeah,
So that wouldn't bother me that much, especially if people are getting naked and it's a fun, wacky episode with other stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, I don't really need to say much else about Max. Right below Max, I have Will.
Okay.
So say what you will about Will. We've taught he's the only way he goes home is if he's can't swim and he's just like a fat like kind of big dude who can't run or keep up. If he loses the challenge for no collar and they see that, and if Nina kind of repairs things or Vince becomes not creepy and weird, then Will goes home. But again, I don't think Will's in that much danger.
Yeah, I mean, I already talked about Will. I don't think Will's in any danger. He was way too positive of an edit. And yeah, he might not fit in completely with that tribe, but there's more people who don't fit in with that tribe than Will.
Like Nina.
Like what? Sorry, I didn't get you. What would you say? Like who?
Like Nina.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying Nina is the one who's
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
My number 9, I have Sierra. I still don't think she's in trouble. I just have her a little bit lower just because, once again, we didn't get to see much of her. And sometimes the suspicious characters get booted early because they got suspicious. So I have her at number 9. And then at number 10, this is where I have Shireen. And I don't think Shireen's going to go home. But if she is unathletic and she blows it in a swimming challenge after, blowing the puzzle last time, I mean, Shireen could find herself screwed. It's going to come down to, do they want loyalty or do they want, strength? And if they go for strength, Shireen's going to go. So, I mean, I don't think Shireen will go. I have 2 White Collars below her, but I mean, it's definitely possible. You zoning?
Close to you. But next is Tyler. And we've talked about Tyler. You talked about him now. I just think Tyler, he's on the white collar tribe, which kind of makes your position just not as good in this game. And because there's an alliance of 3 that seems to be pretty tight, and he's not in it. So that's the only reason I have Tyler. And he knows about the idol, so that could just put a target on his back unnecessarily. But he's a savvy player. I'd like to see him stick around. I don't think it's going to be him. And that's my top 11 right there. So, and this is where the next 6 I think are all in much more danger.
So I'll do my number 11 then, and then.
Okay, yeah.
My number 11, I have Haley. And once again, I only have her this low because we didn't get to see much of her. I don't think she's going anywhere.
Wow, yeah. I think you said your top 6 was all like pretty. I don't see Haley. I mean, I have her at 4. I just don't see Haley going. She just fits in too well. The young tribe. I disagree with you a lot on Haley. I really don't see her going.
I don't think she's going to go. But like I said, because we got to see so little of her, I get a little nervous. And I don't want to sit here and put her at number 4 and put all my trust in the editing that just because we didn't get to see much of her, she's going to hang around. So I just have her at number 11. I have 2 people from No Collar below her, so I'm not worried about her going. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Right. Okay. And then, okay, yeah. Now for me, this is 12. I have Vince.
Okay.
It's so hard with him because we see him. Did people besides Jen realize how like creepy he was? Did he put off like I know Joe and him had that thing with the shelter, but we didn't really get to see how Nina or Haley or Will reacted to Vince. So that's why I have him low. He is a strong guy, and I think he is very helpful in challenges, and I think he's just because he does he's like total weirdo the whole way. I think he just really likes Jen, and he said his weakness is his attraction to women. So, uh,
Yeah, you're cutting out. You're coming in and out. I don't really know why. All of a sudden, it just started happening. You're like getting like glitchy. Um, we got some of it where it's like total weakness is attraction to women and stuff. Um, are you back? I
I
think you're back.
apologize.
I don't know. You kind of kept coming in and
Yeah,
cutting out.
I'm here.
Okay.
The
Um,
Google thing.
Yeah, I know. Damn Google. But yeah, I mean, I got you. Like, yeah, Vince. I actually have Vince even lower. I'm really, really worried for Vince this week. I'm really worried for Vince. If no collar loses, I think the Nina thing was a misdirection. I think Vince is going to be the one. I'm really nervous for Vince this week, and I hate that because if Vince goes home this week, my bootless challenge is over, guys. My perfect score right out the window. I get So Kim right, and then I have Vince getting second place. So. Yeah, I'm in trouble there. Um,
See, what I was saying with Vince, I don't know if am I back now?
yeah, you're back now. Yeah.
Okay. So what I was saying with Vince, he might have just had that one like thing with Jen, and that could be an isolated like he really had this crush on her, and maybe he's like a cool, chill guy, coconut vendor, beach dude. Maybe the life coach. Maybe we'll see that more of that. Maybe he can recover from this like really bad premiere that he had.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I think that they might have blown it up because it was just Jen and Joe. I don't know how much trouble he's really in, but I'm just scared that with the Nina thing, that it was such a misdirect that if no collar loses, I'm gonna be sitting there on the edge of my seat because I know it's gonna be between Nina and Vince, and that's gonna scare the hell out of me because I don't want Vince to go.
See, that's why I don't even think they're going to tribal, just because, and especially because two tribes get the safety thing.
Yeah,
You don't have to get first place in challenge, and with the Nina being in the preview, it just screams to me that yeah, Nina does something or she flips out.
and blue collar wasn't even in the preview, which makes me think I'm starting to agree with you that white collar is probably gonna be the one who goes because they would have shown something from blue collar in the preview, and then the Nina thing they have to show, and then they keep showing the Max being naked thing. So maybe Max is gonna go home, and we'll really be screwed.
Yeah, at least I have Max a little farther down than you do. So
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, that's Vince. I have him at 12. So yeah, you can go.
I have Carolyn at number 12. All the reasons that we've pretty much mentioned already, where the idol could be a curse this early in the game. And if somebody hears about it, she could go home because they could try to get rid of her before she can play the idol, especially if Tyler doesn't feel comfortable with her having it, or if Joaquin starts to pick up on something, which I doubt. But there's plenty of scenarios where Carolyn could go home. So I have Carolyn at 12. I still have Joaquin below her, so it doesn't matter. But I think Carolyn's in a little more trouble than people might have thought after the first episode.
Yeah, I know she had this huge episode and was MVP, but I really fear for Carolyn. I'll rattle off my next two. So at 13 I have Shireen. We've talked about Shireen. She could really be a challenge dud, and that could just, no matter how trustworthy or savvy she is, you can't keep a chick who loses you back-to-back challenges. So that's the thing with her. And then, yeah, I have Carolyn next at 14. And having Idol is a big target, and not only that, she was already on the block in the first episode.
Yeah.
So she's the older lady. She didn't prove anything in the challenge, so she could even be the one that messes up the challenge. And there's so much incentive to flush the idol. And if you're Max or Shireen and you find out Carolyn has this idol, and you say, "Hey, look, Tyler's a pretty trustworthy guy. Why don't we just replace Carolyn with Tyler?" And
Yeah.
the same thing could happen with Max and Carolyn saying, "Let's replace Shireen with Tyler." So that's why I have both of them kind of right there as I have them at 13, 14. So I think they're both not sitting, pretty.
Yeah. We got a downvote, Willie. We're still on the air, and we got a downvote. Sorry, I had to say that.
Whatever.
I
It's
just,
probably because maybe the Google thing, goes in and out sometimes. But
It's probably because I have red hair. People don't like that. Um, so I'll go with my 13 and 14. At 13, I have Lindsay, which I know probably seems low, but if somehow Blue Collar loses and doesn't vote Dan off, I think Lindsay would be the next choice for them. I pretty much have this set up where my bottom six are the bottom two people I think from each tribe. So I have Lindsay at 13, but I still think Dan's going to be the one to go there. And then at 14, I have Vince. And this one scares me because if Vince were to go, that would suck. And I'm thinking that if No Collar loses, it's not going to be Nina. It would be Vince. But I still put Nina below him just because hopefully No Collar doesn't even go. Hopefully Nina were to go. I know some people like Nina. I didn't get much from Nina. I feel like Vince is going to be better TV. I don't know. Go Vince, but I think he's in a lot of trouble this week.
yeah, and as much as we keep saying we don't think it's Nina because of that preview and that it's probably a red herring, it very well might not be. We've seen CBS just be so sloppy and careless with like everything they show, really. So yeah, I have Nina at 15 right there. I'm not saying I think she's going to go home, but just in case they're just shoving it, it could be an episode where it's just Nina's complete downfall. And we saw that last season with Drew Christie, how they gave they did not even care about hiding the fact that he was going home. And that shows that they can edit an episode and have it be a really entertaining, fun episode, even though you know who's going home.
So that Drew Christie boot was one of the best episodes of San Juan del Sur.
Oh, it was the best episode, for sure.
I think the Jeremy boot was the best one, but...
Yeah, I mean, as a storytelling thing, it was just so perfect. Everything that happened, the way it was edited, and they just, like I said, they didn't try to hide it at all. So if they have one of these type of episodes for Nina, that's why maybe they're just not trying to hide it. You can still have really great TV and a really fun episode with something that she does. So yeah, I have her at 15, and I'm just gonna kill my boot list right here. I got Joaquin at 16. Just because he's really on the outs of the white collar tribe. However, I have Dan at 17 because if anyone's going to recover from being the bottom of their tribe, it's going to be Joaquin. He's a stronger male, does better in challenges. So if white collar is going to tribal back-to-back, they're going to think, okay, we really need to keep strength. Even though Joaquin's probably not the most trustworthy, he did dodge that lie pretty well. He kind of put it all on So I don't think they really blame Joaquin for that. Still have him at 16, and then Dan, if blue collar goes, he's almost sure to go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I actually did. I have Joaquin at 15 because I still think he's going to go from white collar because I don't think they're going to trust him. I don't think they're going to keep somebody like him around even though he is strong. I feel like the other four trust each other enough right now that they don't need to keep somebody like Joaquin because Max and Tyler are strong enough, and if there's going to be any challenges after two people are gone, the other people are going to have to sit two people out anyway. I think that they're going to get rid of Joaquin if he goes, if white collar goes to tribal. At 16, I have Dan because he's Dan, and we've talked so much about him, but he's definitely he's in a scary position right now. And then at 17, I just bought into the whole CBS thing, and I put Nina because I feel like it's a safe bet, but at the same time, I don't know if Nina. I don't think Nina's going to go because I think it's too obvious. But I also don't want to be the person who puts Nina at 14 and puts Vince at 17, and then it ends up being an obvious Nina boot the entire time. So I just went with it. I got my 2-point lead. I'm feeling a little confident. I'll put Nina at 17. Hope that Nina goes home.
2-point lead is pretty much nothing in this.
I know.
This game.
I know.
This is the first time I've played this kind of boot list game, or the power rankings game. So I'm pretty excited to see how we do. And if any of us gets a big lead, then you have to make some really bold choices to separate yourself from the other player. So yeah, it'll be fun. Any other predictions you have for this episode? Not necessarily regarding the who gets voted out.
I just think that. I think that we're probably going to see more blue collar this episode. Not much, but I think we're going to see a little bit more of their dynamics. And I think that Rodney is actually he's going to be the head guy over at blue collar. As crazy as that seems, before the
It
season
seems like
started.
it. I mean, it's
I
that's
think
what.
that they're really going to get into his whole thing, and I think that this episode might focus a lot on. I don't know. I don't know who's going to lose. So of course, with three tribes, it's hard to say because they only have an hour and they have to do a challenge and a tribal and all that stuff. But if they do show a lot of blue collar, I feel like they might show a lot of Mike and Dan trying to get Rodney on their side. That would be my guess.
But
No collar,
Rodney loves his chicks. I just
he
don't
loves
see
his
him.
chicks. But does Kelly love Rodney? That's another thing. Kelly could be another swing there.
See,
And then
yeah,
with
that's why I was saying I don't really know about the dynamics of blue collar, like
yeah,
other than Dan. Like I don't know how Kelly feels about really anybody except Dan.
I
Um,
think that I
and
think that blue collar.
Who does Sierra prefer, Kelly
Yeah,
or Lindsay?
I don't know. I think Lindsay, but that's just a guess. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know either. So
I think that blue collar is probably going to win the challenge. I think they're going to get first. Um, and then I would say no collar is going to get second. I think white collar is going to lose, although my power rankings don't show it. I think white collar is going to lose again. If they don't, hopefully neither Nina or Dan go so that I'm right. Although I really don't want Dan to go, but you know.
I mean, I pretty much have my bottom three as Nina, Joaquin, and Dan. Just one. I just think the lowest person on each
That's what
track.
I have too. We have the same bottom three, just in a different order.
Okay. Yeah. I just think Dan is in so much danger on his tribe, whereas Nina and Joaquin can maybe figure something else out. But we'll have to see. I'm excited for this episode. And this season just really is everything getting really good vibes from it. We have just a great cast this year.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And what are we gonna do? Wednesday night or Thursday? You think this week?
I think we'll do Wednesday. Also, yeah, if you want
Wednesday.
to leave in the comments, do you like to watch the podcast or listen to the podcast on Wednesday or like right after the episode, or do you like a day to kind of get your thoughts and listen to it, an extra day of Survivor, if you will, so you're not loading up everything on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like Wednesday, actually, it seems.
Yeah,
They
I do.
just
I
wanna-
think they like it right after the episode, and then plus they can listen to it on Thursday morning. Like I don't know what people do. I know sometimes people will download podcasts, listen to them. So I'm sure they listen to them on Thursday mornings and stuff like that. Gives us more time to get people to watch too. Who knows? Maybe
yeah,
more people.
sure. We'll give it a go on Wednesday night. See what people think. And if you want to post your predictions in the comments or tweet them at us, feel free to at any time, really. So we can talk, like, for next week's Monday show, if you want to send us some predictions anytime between the episode and Monday, then we can talk about, subscriber predictions.
Phil _and_ Will. That's where you can find us on Twitter if you want to tweet at us any predictions that you might have.
I kind of lost you a bit there. I don't know.
I kind of lost
But
you too.
I assume you said our Twitter handle or something.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Well, that'll do it for now. We'll see if we can fix this internet stuff. It's kind of getting annoying, so we'll see what we can do about that. All right, so next episode will be Wednesday. Looking forward to it.
Bye.